Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we discuss the current mystery involving Dante. Just who could it be? I'll throw out a general spoiler warning to begin, as we will be mentioning events from across the lore, as well as talking the current Arks of Omen event, so you have been warned. And with that said, let's just jump straight in. So the next big narrative development is upon us. Abaddon is making his next big move. Vashtor the Archifane has emerged, and the Imperium is reeling from the continued assaults of chaos. It's all bubbling up rather nicely. I've got absolutely no idea where this is all going at the moment, and if there are any spoilers out there, I have done my best to avoid them. So we'll have a little discussion and speculation on the wider picture later in the week. But today we're focusing on a very intriguing mystery. The alliance of Abaddon and Vashtor has seen the Arks unleashed across the galaxy. These warp-infused space hulks are causing devastation everywhere they appear. The Imperium is responding to these as best they can, meeting force with force, daring boarding actions within the void, and really just taking any opportunity that presents itself. Now, one particular Ark or Space Hulk, named the Night Terror, emerged within Imperium Nihilus, and we're told how Dante and his Blood Angels intercepted it. Except rather than be faced with a titanic void battle, they found the escort fleet already completely decimated. And it's said the vessels were hung around the Hulk as some type of macabre garland, which I'm assuming is a figurative description, but hey, you never know. Now Dante obviously boarded the Ark and found that it too was lifeless. Abaddon's forces therein were already slain to a man. The bodies bore the wounds of bolter fire, and some seemingly slashed by a great blade. And that's not all. The Hulk was littered with signs of biomechanical infestation and traces of wilted plant life. So obviously a bit of a mystery. Some force had assaulted the Hulk during its transit, laying waste to the forces of chaos therein, giving Abaddon a big headache in the process. Now again, I'll say right now, I have got no idea where this is going. However, I am definitely excited to find out. And of course, we've got to have a little speculation and theory discussion on what or who it could be. One of the biggest theories that seems to be out there is that it's the Exodite Eldari. That we could finally be getting the Exodites as a tabletop faction in 40k. And as much as I would love this to happen, I mean, come on, Dino Riders for the win, for me I think that's focusing far too much on the wilted plant life aspect and completely ignoring the evidence of bolter fire. Again, this is bolter fire that has killed the chaos forces present within the Ark, implying whoever did this was obviously wielding bolters. No Eldari, at least as far as I'm aware, wields bolters. They are very much a human weapon. Of course, there could be some reason why Exodites maybe are using them. Or maybe there was a psychic power or some kind of plant seed that turned the chaos forces against each other. At this point, who knows? As isolated and introverted as the Exodites are, the threat of Abaddon and chaos right now could be enough to surely rouse them into action. They have been mentioned as being a little bit more involved recently over the past few years than they used to be. But, and there is a but unfortunately, as much as I want Exodites on the tabletop, personally I don't really see much connection here. At least at the moment. Maybe if some more evidence comes to light down the line, then I could change my tune. But when I was reading this, really nothing screamed Exodites to me. so I put this one down as one of the most unlikely scenarios. An outside-the-box, bit of a left-field idea that popped into my head, however, is that maybe it could be the Death Guard. I know, they're both Chaos factions and it wouldn't make sense, I know. However, just in strictly evidence terms, they do kind of fit the bill. Bolt of fire, not a problem. A great blade, well, Mortarion ticks that box with his scythe silence. And the biomechanical infestation and wilted plant life, well, that could easily be some form of Nurgle disease or plague as well. None of it really seems out of the realms of possibility for it to be the Death Guard. Apart from logic and reason, I guess. There is one argument you could make on the Death Guard's behalf. Throughout the first installment of the Arks of Omen event thus far, it's made very clear that Abaddon wants to achieve his victory without becoming the god's pawn. And a couple of times I did get the feeling that the ruinous powers won't let him win without their aid. And now we have Vashtor emerge, who wants to place himself as the fifth Chaos God. As much as the ruinous powers may despise the Emperor and want to get that ultimate victory, I don't think they'd be too pleased discovering Vashtor's attempts to join the Great Game, receiving yet another rival. I don't think you could say it's completely out the realms of possibility for it to be Mortarion, for Nurgle to be secretly acting against it to prevent Vashtor's ambitions becoming reality. Maybe I'm overselling the size of this great blade. Maybe rather than Mortarion, it was Typhus. He works directly for the Grandfather and nobody else, and would have no compulsion about betraying Abaddon if that's what Nurgle wished. Again, unlikely, but I think the evidence could fit, at least as much as any other theory, and it's very much the nature of chaos to be turning against each other. In speaking of Nurgle, there was another thought I have to admit leapt into my mind fairly quickly. If not the Grandfather himself, we do know he just happens to have a certain goddess of life imprisoned within the garden. Aisha. We don't really know much about Aisha, but I kind of naturally assume she'd be fairly similar to Alariel in Age of Sigmar, the goddess of life and the leader of the Sylvaneth race. So for me, it'd certainly fit the plant life explanation. However, again we hit the bolt of fire and great blade situation. Well, there was a Primarch who once left for the Eye of Terror, strongly believed to be seeking the Tree of Life, who may or may not have been a reference to Aisha herself. A long while ago now, we theorized and discussed if the Emperor's burning of Nurgle's garden during the Dark Imperium novel Godblight could have in some way impacted Leman Russ. That if he was within the garden, he may have heard Guilliman's voice, or possibly the fire somehow helped him escape whatever predicament he was in. Rather than the arrival of a faction to the tabletop, or the Chaos factions already turning against each other, could this simply be a tease that Russ and Aisha are out there? That it's not going to lead to anything? No tabletop returns or major reveals, just one of those little hints or mysteries that are placed in the lore and left there open-ended for years, something we end up looking back on a few years down the line. The wilted plant life, Aisha, the bolt of fire and great blade, Russ and the men he took with him. Maybe it has nothing to do with Aisha at all. Maybe Russ did indeed find the Tree of Life, that it wasn't actually a reference to the Eldari goddess. Incredibly unlikely. Anything to do with Russ, you'd expect some reference to winter or wolf. And there was absolutely none. But the plant life, combined with the Great Blade, and my overexcited imagination, yes, we have to admit, I'm not going to lie, that was the first thing that leapt into my mind as soon as I read it. And again, in no way do I think this is a sign of them actually returning, just that it could maybe be a tease or a hint that maybe they are out there somewhere, that events have progressed. The final theory of Dante's Mystery that I have is that it involves the Dark Angels. The bolt of fire for me signals it must involve Astartes. Okay, yes, possibly Sisters of Battle as well, but nothing for them springs to my mind. We already know the Dark Angels will be involved thanks to the revelation of Azrael's new model. And with the rumours long ago of the Dark Angels and Blood Angels being the poster boys for the next edition, having Dante being connected to the mystery involving them would make sense. Now the Great Blade could make sense if the lion had woken up. However, at present we don't believe that to be the case. If he has, and this is just the first tease, well then yeah, it all makes perfect sense. But assuming he hasn't, we know Cypher is currently rumoured to be carrying the Lion Sword. No, he doesn't normally wield it in battle, but could this perhaps involve the Fallen in some way? I don't think at this point I can rule it out. But what of the plant life? How could that be connected to the Dark Angels? I think this is obviously the strangest aspect of the entire mystery. The Dark Angels have their background and ties to the legends of King Arthur outside the lore. The legends and myths of King Arthur lying sleeping, waiting for a time that his country needs him once again. Perfectly represented by the lion within the 40k universe. So too the knightly orders of the Dark Angels and even their history upon Caliban. The great forests and beasts that covered the planet. It's not something we've necessarily seen before, but could this sign of plant life be an evolution of the Dark Angels, tying their psychic powers back closer to their ancient home of Caliban, blending in more of that Arthurian legend into their character, the more Druid and Merlin-esque elements into their librarians? I think it'd definitely be a cool aspect to take. And if it is indeed all going to build up to a figurative lion return, well then maybe it all will make sense. As I said, perhaps this could be the Fallen Psychers, who are ingrained in the sorcery of ancient Caliban, far more than the current chapter Dark Angels. Perhaps this could be the stirrings of Luthor on the move. I certainly don't think he's innocent, but he did always protest it. Maybe for some reason the Fallen took out the Space Hulk. And it is indeed all building to that fabled encounter with the lion. We know we're getting a new Azrael. Maybe we could have a surprise Luthor model revealed soon. At this point I just don't know, but this mystery of Dante's has certainly got me excited. Could it be the Exodites? Could it be the Death Guard? Could it be Aisha and Russ? Could it be Russ on his own with the Tree of Life? Or in some way are the Dark Angels involved? For me, the little evidence we have thus far leans closest to the Death Guard. However, the more logical reasoning leads me more towards the Dark Angels, whereas my heart is absolutely screaming Aisha and Russ. I'm most likely wrong on all counts, but as always everyone, what do you think? What do you think this tease of the Dante mystery is going to lead us towards? What do you think the wilted plant life represents? And why does it involve bolter fire and a great blade? Of all the theories out there or your own personal ideas, Where do you think it is all going to go? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.